Hi, I'm Glen Phillips, and I'm here to tell you about this hand. So, about, I guess it was probably 8 years ago now, I was at Watkins' house, great guitarist and really good friend, and in their living room they had this, uh, it was a glass-topped coffee table, and people tell you not to sit on coffee tables, and they really know what they're talking about. I had thought because it had this nice thick, it was like a 2-inch metal rim, that was the part holding my weight, and people sat on it all the time because it had this thick metal rim, and I'd been sitting on it for about 10, 15 minutes, and suddenly it just went crack, and I fell back into it, and so I sliced the elbow right here. You can see the scar, and it severed my ulnar nerve, about 70% severed. So immediately this all went out like a light bulb. So from here to here is all pins and needles. This is pins and needles. This is okay, different nerve, but this is pins and needles. So all of that's numb, and I can bend like that with reduced strength, but I can't bring the fingers together. These muscles, the lateral muscles, are all disconnected, and some wrist muscles are disconnected. And I'm left-handed as well, so I play right-handed, but I'm left-handed. So that was the injury, and the doctor basically, they repaired the nerve as best they could. They kind of put some soft tissue around it and basically said, because I was, late 30s at the time, that it would be 50-50. I would probably get some function back, but not all function back. I could have a miracle and get tons back. I could get none back. And that the best physical therapy I could do was just to keep playing and writing songs. So he's just said, play guitar as much as possible. And so about 2 months later, I went on tour. I had to cancel a tour that was starting the next day. I was supposed to go out with my friend Jonathan, who was here, and Jonathan Brook, and that didn't work. And so I went out, and actually Sean Watkins was kind enough to come and accompany me on that tour, because I could do kind of power chords. I could do a root fifth thing. And it was really strange to figure out what I could play and what I couldn't play. The biggest part at the beginning was that I had no control, no proprioception on this finger, and so it would flap against the fretboard kind of randomly. So I practiced, and I still, for a lot of positions, stick it out like this all the time, because I was just trying to avoid muting all my strings inadvertently. And so I could do this basic root fifth thing. That was an easy reach. I couldn't do like that F style open chord. I couldn't do it all. It took me a while to even get to be able to finger it so I could get in a third. I had to finally get enough control over this finger, which is also, half paralyzed, just to mute the octave string, because I couldn't finger it. I ended up doing a lot of relearning songs with different capo positions, because, for all I want, I could do that on the 5th fret, but I couldn't finger that thing with that finger. So like there was a lot of moving things around on the fretboard, just finding what chords worked, what I could actually play, and what was physically too difficult. And then it was just a period of years. The first year and a half was a lot of random nerve pain. And so when I got out of the hospital, I had to kind of make a decision. I think opiates are a lot of fun, and they gave me one bottle of opiates, and I kind of knew I could get as many as I wanted for as long as I wanted, because nerve pain's intense, and it's the only thing that kills them. And so I never got a refill, and it was a really good, important year for me to have kind of chronic pain, because part of nerve damage, for anyone who's had it, it's never like, you never get a handgasm. It never gives you a random nervous impulse of great pleasure. It's like always burning or cutting or itching, or like it's always pain. And so there was a year and a half of just random now I'm being dipped in hot oil, and it was a really good practice for me, I think, to get used to sitting in discomfort and just getting through it, knowing it would pass, and being present for it. And I think did a lot for me, not necessarily for my playing, but for other parts of my life and understanding just how to sit through discomfort. The main thing with playing was just persistence and, slowly getting strength back and slowly, it's like I can finger that kind of a chord now. I still can't do an A style, like I move too slow and I'm too weak for that, but I can get away. It's like learning what you can get away with. It was about 3 years ago that I started using the pinky again, and the hardest thing in that was retraining myself to make the pinky available to the fretboard, because everything I'd been doing was keeping it as far away as possible. And so, just doing that on a D chord is a huge deal for me. Just that, being able to do a sus chord is like, yay! It's this huge revelation. And so it's a different kind of muscle memory, because I still feel like my perception of this finger is that it's about that big. It's a big balloon. When it gets cold, it just feels like it's being inflated with, if my arm gets cold up here, then, or the nerve gets compressed here, I get numbness, and it basically feels like this is inflated with ice water. And it feels bigger, and so it's really, I have to kind of gauge it almost by how it rubs against this finger. That's how I know where my pinky is, and slowly just learning to trust the placement of that finger. But it's just a slow process, figuring out what works, what doesn't, and always working around it and pushing it just a little bit. And I try to give myself, with things like that, just giving myself an out, that I would be that a lot of the time, and not being afraid of playing a bad note or of just muting or biffing it a little and working it in piece by piece. And when I was feeling brave and my arm was warm enough, like trying the pinky and then backing off again and trying it again. And the other part was just getting support from friends, to back me up until I could play again. My first complete solo show was, I think, 4 months after the injury, and it was opening for David Wilcox, and it was like the most shameful show of my entire life, because, I was just like barely pulling things off and forcing myself to get through a set alone, and David Wilcox comes out, and it's just majestic, and but it was a good experience. I guess the one other thing you had asked is, I mentioned before about, my friends and their reaction. It was really interesting. I'd never been a great practicer. My friends practice a lot more than I do. I think of myself like as a songwriter who plays guitar as a way to get my songs out. And, just before I had this injury, I'd been asking, the universe, it's like, I want a new challenge. I want to really get into practicing guitar again. I want to get some discipline with that. And I wasn't specific that I would like to do those things without injury. I didn't want to start at square one again on guitar. I just wanted to learn more things. And so I got exactly what I was asking for, but in a slightly unexpected form. And my friends who practiced a lot, it was interesting watching how much it freaked some of them out, because they were, it was their worst nightmare. But it was really cool to see how community rallied, how people were so willing to show up, be there when it was happening. So I guess, that's my hand. There you go.